Welcome to my channel, and it's nice to meet you. This is Two Blades Are Better Than One. I named the channel after my favorite lightsaber. This is a custom saber. It's the Empress Regnant saber by Phoenix Props and SP Sabers. I use this saber to experiment and make a lot of lightsaber fonts, and I even have a lightsaber font made for the Fondor Haulcraft. So if you're interested in that, check out my other videos. But I'm repurposing the channel to focus on my new project, which is this custom mock of the Fondor Haulcraft, this Luthen ship from the TV series Andor. And the TV series is made for adults, so there haven't been a lot of Lego sets for it. So that kind of makes sense, but also making the ship, it's quite difficult. The wings are very large and have to be well balanced to get it to work. They also really determine the stability of the ship. So it's been a great challenge, but it's been really rewarding. The best and the worst thing, the fact that Lego didn't make an official set, and it kind of forced me to make my own. I saw a couple of other mocks online first about this. The first one was from Two Bricks. Two Bricks makes a lot of Star Wars Lego mocks, and he sells the instructions on Rebickable. His Fondor Haulcraft was play scale, and is significantly smaller than this one. It's very stable, but I wanted to build something more more detailed, especially around the wing section, where I wanted to replicate the triangular sections of the wings. So I kept looking. There was a good one made by Aventus Engineering. Aventus Engineering makes a lot of mocks where they use studs on side techniques. So if you look at their wings as opposed to mine, you can see there's a lot of studs on my wings. And this was always sort of my plan. This is how the UCS Millennium Falcon looks like. So I kind of thought it was appropriate. I wanted to make kind of something on the same scale that would match it. So I decided to go with that. And finally, there was another mock shown online on Reddit at first. And that one is a lot closer to this one in scale. So that really kind of pushed me over to the edge to say I've got to build my own since I can't get this. That one didn't have digital instructions available. So you really had to go build your own in that situation. So I started building, and I think I probably went over the scale of what that was. It's a lot closer in scale to the UCS Falcon, which is essentially minifigure scale. But that's always relative because the minifigure scale is different in terms of height versus width. And also for Star Wars spaceships, there's two scales. There's kind of like the scale from the exterior, and then there's the scale from the interior. And if you watch the movies and the shows, you'll always notice that the ships look kind of bigger on the inside than they look like from the outside. So this is somewhere in between those two extremes. I find that it's very good for a play set. The center of the ship is just a frame. The top of that ship is a play set for the minifigures. The bottom of the ship is all Technic, and I've used about 85% Technic. I've used about 15% Technic parts, 85% system parts. So it's a very much like a form equals function model. All of the mechanisms I have are mechanized and electronic and controlled by a powered up hub. So it's not quite UCS because UCS doesn't have that stuff typically. It's not Technic. It's kind of like powered up, kind of like Icons. Icons doesn't really have a lot of electronics either. So it just kind of follows my own philosophy for building mocks. And I thought that the ship in the show is, it has a droid control, and it's very automated and it's very electronic, so I wanted to kind of follow that spirit in making this ship. So that kind of like drove my design. Also, there's a couple of things that came out while I was building it in between season 1 and season 2 of Andor. I think that's when they released the Dune Ornithopter, which really is a great combination between system and Technic bricks, and I think it's like one of the best sets Lego has ever made. So I wanted something kind of that could match that. I was also a little bit inspired by the Cybertruck that came out during this development, and the Cybertruck, like it or love it or hate it, it aside from looking the way it does, which is like a kind of like a silvery cockroach shape like this, they implement it with a lot of special technologies with like steer-by-wire and with 48-volt architecture and all that. So that also inspired me to kind of strive a little bit harder to create the mechanical and electrical mechanisms on this. So that's kind of how I got through the design. Aside from the Technic parts, this is a Moc. So Mocs, they always talk about how you can use any part that you want, and some of the parts aren't available anymore. Well, I don't think I have a lot of parts like that, maybe less than 1%. I know that one part that I use is a triangular bracket with a tow ball at the end, and that is used for the stability of the wings. It's very light, and it allows me to create like kind of like kite-like structures for the wings. But you can probably rebuild it without that, but that part's readily available, so I just went for it there. Let's see. It's yeah, I don't think it's that you'll ever see an official set on this scale. It's just too big. I'll go through the numbers on it. So, like I said, it took me about 24 months to build. The first 9 months I was just designing it in Bricklink Studio, and I got really proficient in Bricklink Studio. The next 9 months after that was all just making the instructions. And so when you make instructions in Bricklink Studio, it's probably the most difficult thing to do. And in particular, it's very easy to make mistakes. So if you ever delete a step in the wrong place, it might ruin your instructions for the whole set of instructions that come after that point. So I learned how to work around those bugs, and I learned how to become proficient in just making the instructions quickly and setting the right building order. After that, I ordered the parts. I think that's after I got the parts to build it, took me about 6 months. That was a little faster than I thought, but as I built it, I was really surprised at how much stuff I had to rebuild from the digital design to get it to work in real life, to be stable and to work well in terms of the mechanical assemblies. So it took a little bit of extra time, but it also took some extra parts. So when I finished the instructions, it was at 7,700 parts, which was cool, and that number made me happy, but I had to add more parts for stability. So right now it's at about 8,200 parts, which is kind of like on the scale of the UCS Falcon. The UCS Falcon, I think, is 7,500 or so parts. But this is denser, of course, and more detailed, particularly on the bottom panels. So it kind of makes sense. There's about 975 lots, or like distinct kinds of parts, over the whole model. For the minifigures, you can see here I have the minifigure collection. There's 4 minifigures that I just took from official sets, and there's 4 minifigures that I made custom. The custom ones are kind of here in the front row. There's 2 Cleas and 2 Luthans, and that was really kind of essential for this. And I made a lot of special features where the minifigures are used to actually control the ship, and I'll show you that at the end of this video and in later videos maybe. The price estimates, I'm sure you're kind of curious about how much it cost. Well, if you part out the whole set on Bricklink Studio and Bricklink, it will be around $1,800. But you know, like when you do that with Bricklink Studio, when you part out a whole set, it usually ends up costing about twice as much as the original set. So if you look at it on that scale, it really is kind of comparable to the UCS Falcon. The UCS Falcon is like $800. So if you kind of double that a little bit more, then you get to about the same price as this. What I actually did in the construction is I got a lot of the parts from WeBrick. I got about 80% of the parts on WeBrick for less than $500. So I definitely spent less than that estimate. But there are a lot of motors, and they're official LEGO Technic parts. There's the powered up hubs, which I always use official LEGO parts, and I'm using the official powered up software on the iPad to control it. So after that, my price estimate, like I had to buy a lot of extra small parts on Bricklink near the end just to finish it off, and so that increased my shipping cost by a lot. So I don't think that my cost is fully representative of what it would cost now once the entire design is complete. But that's kind of the story about that. Let's see. The instructions. I'll mention the instructions. So the instructions are existent. They're done now. I do have to probably refine them before I share them and put them on Rebrickable, because the order that I build things in isn't fully represented in the instructions. So sometimes there's like a wing and a support, and you're supposed to build the support first and then the wing, but in the instructions I did it backwards. So I have to do a lot of rearranging still to make the build represent what I actually did. There's also situations where there's panels held together by toe balls. So whenever you do that, you have to put the toe balls together first before you build the panels. If you do it the other way around and you're putting them together, you usually crush all the panels. So I'm going to refine the instructions probably another 2 months or so, which means that hopefully I have them ready around September. Right now, they're about 1,000 pages long. There's multiple steps per page to make the building experience faster. So there's typically four steps per page, but I think that the total steps is about 3,300 steps, which means there's like about average 3.3 steps per page. So that's kind of like what they look like. Yeah, everything is covered, but yeah, just the ordering is not optimal. So I'm going to work on that a bit more before I release it. I'll talk some more about the mechanical and the electrical and the computer part. So all those things are really important here. There's 2 powered up control hubs, and each powered up control hub has 4 channels. So one of the channels is used for a light color sensor, and then one of the channels is used for a powered up to LED adapter. So I have LED lighting on the set, and when you do that, when you connect it to the powered up hub, you can actually control the lights to turn on and off using the same programming that controls everything else. So that's really cool. And then all the rest of the 6 channels are used for motors, and the motors control various functions around the ship. Sometimes one motor controls more than one mechanical assembly, or sometimes, like in the case of the landing gear, each one of the feet gets its own motor. But yeah, the mechanisms, the most important mechanism is of course the wings. Without the wings, you don't really have the ship, or like the soul of the ship, what it's supposed to be. So there's one big motor that controls both the wings, but each one of the wings has like a multi-phase mechanism where they telescope out from the ship. The cylinder that's on the wing arm, just kind of like in the show, it's not an engine, but it rotates. So as they're telescoping out, the cylinders rotate, and the arm on the cylinder rotates with it. And then finally, where the arm connects to the wings, there's kind of like a pivoting motion, and you can see that in the show. So I tried to implement all those things together into the wings. The wings is kind of like the first thing I started working on, and it's like the last thing that I ended up working on. It's really the most important part, so I'll show that to you. Aside from the wings, like I mentioned, the landing gears, there is a mechanism for the rear hatches here that pop up, just like in the show. There is a mechanism that opens up the door on top of the center hatch, and then a turret comes out. And finally, there's a mechanism for the landing ramp, which you might not be able to see from this angle, but the landing ramp also opens up, and it's mechanized kind of like some of the Mocs that have been applied to the UCS Falcon. So I've always wanted one of those, but I ended up making it on this. So yeah, that's kind of everything. I'll try to make further videos about this ship, just because there's so much to talk about, going over all the parts like the interiors and the specific mechanisms. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to try to get the instructions ready to go. Hopefully I'll be sharing some more videos with you soon. Okay, thanks for watching.